we got to see one of the people that I tend to look at and say, this is a pretty good gauge on where the national media stands on this team. This is a guy who is very, very good at giving us the national perspective on how national media view the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's Colin Cowherd. Now, what does Colin Cowherd do? We have had conversations on this show, and we have dissected some of his statements about Jalen Hurts in the past, and that he doesn't seem to believe that Jalen Hurts belongs in the upper echelon of quarterbacks, maybe not even in the first two tiers, because he is of the belief that it's a stacked offensive line, incredible running back, great wide receiving duo, really strong tight end, and that because Hurts isn't called upon to be a guy that needs to lead the way for his team and win games outright for his team, since he isn't leaned on in that way, he can't be one of those top-tier guys. Now, I fundamentally disagree with that. I don't think you can hold the overall value of the supporting cast against a guy. I'm very much on the record here. Not the biggest Joe Burrow guy. Recognize the talent. Also recognize the fact that their defense sucks. They often fall behind early in games. Burrow has to kind of dig them out of a hole. He gets to throw the rock around. He also has a great wide receiver duo in Chase and Higgins, something that a lot of times it feels like people like to gloss over. He does have a legitimate wide receiver duo, and he puts up gaudy stats. And then you see Joe Burrow get put in at number 3 on quarterback power ranking lists, and then you see Jalen Hurts end up at number 9 and kind of want to pull your hair out. And in the case of me, where I have a 5 or maybe a 6 head, I don't want to pull any more of this lettuce out, because if I do, then it becomes a 7 or an 8 head, and that just isn't good for anybody. Colin Cowherd, though, he released his power rankings. So the herd hierarchy, as he calls it, he ranked out the top 10 teams in the NFL, and it's a lengthy clip. It's something that, while I appreciate it and I think is wonderful, it's not what I'm really concerned with. I'm concerned with, where did he put your team, your town, your Philadelphia Eagles? And if I told you that Colin Cowherd put the Buffalo Bills at number 2, your head probably would go to, oh, he's got the Chiefs at number 1. Or maybe your head goes to, oh, maybe he's very bullish on Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in year 2 of playing together, and maybe he's got Baltimore as the number 1 team. But would you be surprised, and perhaps you would you be surprised to know that Colin Cowherd did not put Kansas City number 1? He did not put Baltimore at number 1. No. Colin Cowherd put the Eagles in a very prominent position. Let's go out to Colin Cowherd. We'll let him be the one to reveal where he put the Philadelphia Eagles.
Listen, not only was their defense number 1 last year, I looked it up this morning, it was the youngest defense in the league and the cheapest. So they do everything right. I don't.
Spoiler alert. You just saw it on screen. If you're listening to the podcast feed after the fact, all right, spoiler alert. He's got the Eagles number 1. Citing the defense, the youth of the defense, the cost of the defense. Let's continue.
I think they're as good at quarterback. I think when you can force Philadelphia to play from behind and you can force them to throw, they're not as dangerous as a Buffalo is forced to throw or a Kansas City is.
So that is entirely built around this idea that Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes are vastly superior quarterbacks to Jalen Hurts. I think that for the most part, you will get a large segment of football fandom that would probably agree Josh Allen overall as a quarterback better than Jalen Hurts. You would certainly get a large plurality of the votership would say Patrick Mahomes, best quarterback of his generation, likely a better quarterback overall, right? Especially playing from behind than Jalen Hurts. We can, of course, point back to the fact that we often do on this show, which is that Jalen Hurts in 2 Super Bowls against Patrick Mahomes has outplayed Patrick Mahomes both times. We can leave that off to the side. We can also leave off to the side that, Jalen Hurts, reigning Super Bowl MVP, a guy who got the job done for your team, your town, your Philadelphia Eagles. But okay, we'll pull back a second. Colin Cowherd, very much of the opinion, all right, Mahomes, Josh Allen, he'd rather go to them with a need to come back late in the game. I think you could probably make that case for Mahomes. I'm not so sure that you could make the case for Josh Allen, but all right, we'll continue.
But again, they do everything well. They GM well. They quarterback well. Mm-hmm. Their line plays incredible. Saquon Barkley has just been jet fuel to an uber-talented roster. So there is my herd hierarchy.
And that's it. So he's right on a few levels, right? Howie Roseman, who I was very critical of for a very long time, probably does the GM thing better than any other GM in the National Football League, continues to find value along the margins. And it's funny, when Cincinnati was kind of lighting themselves on fire by, essentially making Trey Hendrickson available, the first thought was, oh, what's Howie going to offer? And everybody almost expected Howie Roseman to kind of swoop in and make a crazy trade for him. Now, to this point, there has been no real update on Trey Hendrickson or about him being moved. I saw a couple hours ago that the Raiders are apparently out there as a potential front runner for Hendrickson. But if you're the Eagles, you have the draft capital to be able to go after a guy like that. Question is, how do you make it work? How do you make it work with the cap? It's always interesting, though, because any name that becomes available, any big name that becomes available, immediately you think of the Philadelphia Eagles, and you think about the fact that Howie Roseman kind of works his voodoo magic on the salary cap. And yes, there are bad void years. And yes, the salary cap situation can be very tenuous if things go sideways with any of these players. And yes, Howie kind of, in a way, benefited from absolute incompetence in Washington by getting rid of Carson Wentz. That was Washington. Yes. Or was that Indy? He played at both. But he was able to get rid of Carson Wentz. He had Jalen Hurts already drafted. Many people questioned that decision to take Hurts in the second round at the time. But by being able to offload an awful Carson Wentz contract that would have had a ton of dead money if they had to cut him, they got to clear the books. You probably aren't going to get another shot like that. And as things currently stand right now, the Eagles are kind of in a house of cards when it comes to the cap situation and with potential void years on the end of some deals. But in the interim, they are as competitive as any team. They have the flexibility that's virtually as good as about any team in the National Football League. They do the GMing thing very, very well, if not better than anyone else. The coaching side of things is interesting because Jalen Hurts now, once again, has a different offensive coordinator. The poor guy can't get 2 years of the same guy calling plays. That's a little bit problematic. Depends on how much you believe Nick Sirianni is involved in the planning of the game plan going into Sundays. It depends on how much you believe he's actually involved in the direct play calling within the game. If we are to believe that Nick Sirianni has had the majority of the play calling duties and the preparation in installing the game plan leading up to games, then maybe the offensive coordinator role isn't that important after all. And having Sirianni here really is the only consistency that Hurts needs. Now, if the success has kind of been in flux, and we know that 2023 season was dog doo-doo, if you are to kind of take that year out as an outlier, and it was contingent on the offensive coordinator being very, very good, we'll see how this looks this year. I have to imagine that at this point, Hurts, by virtue of being able to deliver 2 deep playoff runs, 2 Super Bowl runs, 1 Super Bowl win, he probably at this point has earned significant input into what works best for him so that when the game plan is being installed on a week-to-week basis, he's going to have more say than he might have had in the past, and we'll see how it works. But Colin Cowherd having the Eagles atop his NFL power rankings, atop his herd hierarchy, I thought was notable, and so I pass that along to you.